You're still not coming close. Disband Social Security, disband Medicare, make direct payments to people to pay for health insurance, whatever they need. We're still saving money. So it's not so crazy. Free rider problem. A lot of problems with this. So they said, let's try it out. And we have the Seattle and Denver income maintenance experiments. These happened in the 70s. And they ran the test for 3 to 5 years. Well, 3 years for some people, 5 years. Have you heard of this?
No, I was just saying you could tell in the 70s by the...
Quite true. Well spotted. And so what they did was they said, we're going to get, a couple thousand people in these different groups, and we're going to give different amounts of money. They range from about $18,000. This is adjusted to $2,008. But from $18,000 to $45,000. So this is the federally recognized poverty line. And this is basically a living wage where you actually need to live along with a family of 4 and not be in poverty. And what they found was this. And here's your answer. If you totaled up the number of hours that people worked a year, averaged it out among all the participants, the total loss of labor, that is the people who just chose not to work, came out to 2 to 4 weeks a year. On average, people in this experiment worked 2 to 4 weeks less a year, which I thought was called vacation. But I could be mistaken. A lot of people did drop out. Most of them were parents who stayed home with their kids. And so you know what? Even if the negative income tax increases the amount of money that we have to pay in taxes, isn't $100 extra a year worth parents raising kids? Think of all the problems that happen when kids don't have parents at home, right? 14-year-olds, that's a little one. A lot of trouble to get into, right? Illiteracy. Juvenile delinquency leads to adult delinquency. Juvenile delinquency is a reflection of adult delinquency. Specifically the parent, not at home, because they got to work 80 hours a week. Right? There are a lot of problems in this society that come from that lack of parental involvement. And I don't know when family values meant your family has to work, their fingers to the bone just to survive, and your kids, never see their parents. They have 5 minutes a night when they're being tucked in. But this is family values to me. Support the family. Guarantee an income for parents so that you can have someone be a full-time parent to that kid, so that person can grow up to be an actual citizen and not a free rider. A lot of also, divorce rate rose. Some people think it's bad. I think it's great. Because think about the marriages that stay together because they can't afford to break up. Think about the women that have to stay with abusive husbands. Think about the kids who have to live with constant fighting because their parents can't afford to split up. I think it's good. You know what? If you don't marry for love, don't marry. 7% of people right now marry because they need the health insurance of their partner. 7. That's right. Almost 1 in 10. So you know what? Yeah, a lot of people did drop out of the workforce. Good for them, because most of them raised their kids. And a lot of people did break a lot of marriages, and good for them. Because that's fewer kids growing up in abusive households, and that's fewer people living with domestic violence. Unqualified success. So they buried it. Because, to paraphrase Senator Moynihan in the 70s, the Simon-Dime experiments challenged the basic fundamental root of capitalism. That you have to have wage labor to force people to work. That or else they'll be free riders. This proves stunningly that is untrue. Yes?
Well, I think it's probably true that most people get kind of bored just sitting around the house, and most people find life a lot more interesting if they have some kind of meaningful work, paid or not paid. So I actually think that in the long run, society would benefit from this because you get more productive work.
Also note, 18,000, a lot of people were just paid this. This ain't buying you a Lexus. This ain't buying you a trip to the Bahamas. This ain't buying you beef. Who here likes beef? I love it. Alright? You know what? $18,000, that's not going to afford you steak. That's not going to afford you going to the movies. That's not going to afford you your Xbox, your computer, going out. So yeah, you know what? Let's guarantee their income. Let's guarantee food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education. I'm not guaranteeing you beef. I'm not guaranteeing you Abercrombie and Fitch. I'm not guaranteeing you a nice mansion, on the hill. If you want that, you work for it, just like everybody else. So you know what? Yeah, there might be a few free riders. But overwhelmingly, people work. All right? And so this is what we're saying. Let's create that guaranteed income. Let's set it somewhere in between, well, it's going to be calculated differently for different areas, but let it set it at food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education. But let's add a twist. Because although I do believe people have the right to live, I also think that you can't pass up an opportunity to get people involved. And so whoa. Wrong button. Let's make it so that this is a tax exemption. Let's say $10,000, which is a nice, easy, round number. Let's set that as what you need for food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education. All right? If you do 50 hours of community service a year, you get $10,000 of tax-free income. And if you make less than $10,000, we send you a check for $10,000. Or whatever it is to make it up to. Now, people, first reaction is, only 50 hours a year? Are you kidding? That's nothing. I know. But how many people live in Bellingham? I don't know, just how many? 60, 80? That's 60,000? Let's say about half of them are adults. Can you imagine 30,000 people every week putting 1 hour of community service? 30,000 people spending an hour cleaning up roads? 30,000 people spending an hour at old folks' homes or tutoring or being a big brother? 30,000 hours a week! Holy crap, that's a lot! 1 hour a week doesn't sound like a lot until you add it all up. And then it's huge. So let's get people putting an hour a week into their communities. And you know what? You know what that does? That brings down a lot of the problems. Because now we're starting to take a little load off our schools. We're taking a little load off our, hospice care system. We're getting kids involved with positive role models, and they'll become criminals. Right? We're cleaning up a lot of that environmental destruction. Right? Get that litter. Maybe dig out some new drainage ditches. 1 hour a week. Over 30,000 people in a year, you won't even recognize where you live. And again, we're not paying them to drive a Lexus. We're paying them for food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education. And most people, I don't know, anyone here, your aspirations, you want to happen. Who here wants to live in a simple apartment with like a couch and one of those giant copper spools for a coffee table and a bed on the floor? And you eat rice and beans and that's it. Who here wants to live like that? Nobody. You're good? It's not all right. I mean, you're free to paint and write or do whatever, right? We've taken that burden off of you. You don't have to go work a crappy janitor job to survive. The rest of us, on the other hand, I want a nice car. I want a nice stereo system in my car. I want to race my car very fast down the road. I want to pay for the gasoline for that car. I will work. Because I'm not satisfied with a Spartan apartment and a copper spool coffee table and a bed without a frame. Right? I don't want to eat rice and beans. I want to eat beef. So I will work for this. And I'll do my 50 hours so I get my tax exemption, so I get that little back from the government. But I'm giving way more back, 1 hour a week. And just think about $10,000 a year. Would you pay someone $10,000 a year to guarantee that every week people from that community are out there doing something for other people? That's nothing. That's change. Well, change in the literal sense of money. Yes, double entendre. So, now what we have is we have a system for matching actual demand with actual production. We have a way to keep those companies accountable, that they produce what we need and they do it in the way that we want. And now we have a way to guarantee people an income, to guarantee people that freedom to make actual choices that still gets them out there, making positive improvements in the world of those around them. And that's it, right? But then you're going to ask, wait, can't we just, we don't need all three of them. So let's just say the negative income tax. That's a great idea. And we don't need these other things. We'll just, Milton Friedman didn't say overturn capitalism. He just said start a negative income tax. But that won't work, right? It won't work because ultimately you have the government subsidizing the ridiculous market prices of all those people around them, right? And we talk about with farm subsidies, we are paying the government to give money to the farmers to produce the food that we pay the farmers from. All of our money is going to these farmers. Now imagine prescription drugs, imagine rent, imagine housing, imagine the government having to pay $750 a month for my crappy one-bedroom apartment. All right? You can't just have a negative income tax because ultimately all you're doing is subsidizing profit those privately owned corporations, right? We're just redistributing our income upwards. That defeats the entire purpose of a negative income tax, right? Now, you just, wait. So if we have citizen ownership, we have those corporate accountability boards, it'll be okay. We can leave it to